You know that feeling, right? You're scrolling online, you find the perfect house, but when you see it in person, it's a bit of a letdown. Well, a new law in California is trying to fix that by changing the rules for real estate photos. Let's get into what this means for, well, pretty much everyone.
I mean, we've all seen it. You're browsing listings and you come across a home that just looks incredible. The grass is an impossible shade of green, sunlight is pouring into every room, and somehow there isn't a single ugly power line in sight. It really makes you stop and ask, is that what it actually looks like?
And that's really the heart of the problem today. With AI and powerful editing software, it's incredibly easy to create a version of a property that's, let's say, a little more idealized. And that creates this huge gap between what you expect and what you actually get when you show up for a tour. So, what's California doing about it? They've rolled out a brand new truth in advertising law. You can think of it as a new rule book for real estate photos, and its whole goal is to bring a lot more transparency to what you see online. The law itself is pretty straightforward. The most important part is this. If an image of a property has been digitally altered in a significant way, you have to disclose it, period. And this isn't just for million-dollar home sales. The law casts a really wide net. It covers property sales, leases that are longer than a year, and it applies to both residential homes and commercial buildings. So yeah, it's going to have a pretty big impact across the entire industry. Okay, and this brings us to what's probably the most critical part of this whole thing. The law makes a very clear distinction between a photo that's been digitally altered and one that's just been adjusted. And knowing the difference is absolutely key to understanding these new rules. So let's start with what counts as altered. An altered image is one where you've used software or AI to actually add, remove, or change the physical elements in the picture. We're not just talking about making it a little brighter. We're talking about changing the substance of what's really there. So, what does that look like in the real world? Well, the most obvious example is virtual staging, digitally adding furniture to an empty room. But it also covers things like erasing a big utility pole that's blocking the view, changing the wall color, or even adding a whole new garden. If you're changing a physical feature, that's an alteration. This really breaks it down. On the left, you see the big stuff, the alterations that change reality. But on the right, you have your basic adjustments. These are things that photographers have always done, like improving the lighting, correcting the color, or cropping the image. These are totally fine and don't need any special disclosure. But what about the gray areas? This is where it gets a little tricky. Let's say the photographer shows up and it's a gloomy, cloudy day. Is it okay to swap in a beautiful sunny blue sky? And here's another classic example. You've got a beautiful fireplace and it works perfectly, but there wasn't a fire going when the picture was taken. If you digitally add a crackling fire, is that an alteration? I mean, you're adding something that wasn't there, even if it could have been. So, what's the guiding principle for these tricky situations? It all comes down to this one question. Would a potential buyer be misled by this change? If the answer is yes, or even a maybe, then the safest bet is to just go ahead and disclose it. Okay, so you've determined that an image is in fact altered. What do you actually have to do to comply with the law? Let's walk through the steps. It's actually a pretty simple two-step process. First, you need to add a clear statement right on or near the image that says it's been altered. Second, you have to give people a way to see the original untouched photo. You can do that with a link, a QR code, or just by showing the original picture right before or after the altered one in the photo gallery. But just when you think you've got it all figured out, there's a plot twist. See, the state law is one thing, but real estate agents also have to follow the rules of their local multiple listing service, or MLS. And here's the kicker. The MLS rules might be even stricter than the law. Now, why would they do that? Well, you have to think about it from their perspective. They don't want their platform cluttered with broken links. They don't want to deal with links that go to the wrong image, or worse, links that are just being used for advertising. And a lot of them already have long-standing rules that say you can't put any text or branding on photos, which directly clashes with the new state disclosure rule. So, we're likely going to see local MLSs go one of three ways. Some might just issue a total ban on altered images. That's the simplest fix. Others might say, okay, altered photos are fine, but you have to show the original right next to it. No links. Or they might just adopt the state law's method, but with their own extra guardrails in place. For any real estate professional out there, the big takeaway is this. Always, always check your local MLS rules first. When it comes to your listings, their rules are the ones that matter most day to day.
So let's talk about the future. What are the real-world stakes here? What happens if someone just ignores these new rules?
Well, the consequences can be pretty serious. For one, it's a violation of your real estate license. It can also be seen as an ethics violation for failing to present a true picture of the property. And finally, it opens the door to potential lawsuits. Even if it's hard for a buyer to prove they were harmed, it's not a legal fight anyone wants to have.
Ultimately, this new law is about something much bigger than just real estate photos. It really forces us all to ask a huge question. In this age of AI, where technology is blurring the lines every single day, where do we draw that line between marketing and reality? It's a conversation that we're all just beginning to have.